All right, back here with Captain Marty, going to tell us another one of his fantastic stories from sea. Marty, what are we going to tell us today?
Well, for our listeners, a little trivia question here. If you went to Oregon Inlet, went out the inlet,
okay,
and you turned your boat to 120 degrees, or it would be southeast.
Southeast.
Mm-hmm, and you went for 600 miles or 30 hours at cruise, where would you be?
I believe I would be running into somewhere in Africa.
No, you'd be in Bermuda.
Bermuda?
Yeah,
I was close, wasn't I? Close?
Yeah. And I have numerous Bermuda stories, but I got one I'm going to tell you when we come back from the break that you will not want to miss.
Red Drum Tackle in Buxton is the oldest complete tackle shop at Cape Hatteras. And being the closest tackle shop to Cape Point, Red Drum Tackle has been welcoming fishermen to Hatteras Island with a wide selection of bait and tackle, skilled custom rod builds, rod and reel repair, expert knowledge and information since 1974. Red Drum Tackle knows how, when, and where to fish. To acquire this fishing brain power, visit them online at reddrumtackle.com. Red Drum Tackle, the oldest complete tackle shop at Cape Hatteras and the closest to Cape Point in Buxton.
Surrounded by water, Currituck and the people of the Outer Banks have been shaped and defined by its rich and coastal maritime history. The Currituck Maritime Museum tells the story of Currituck's boat-building forefathers, their remarkable craft, and the legacy they left behind on how to live life and thrive on the waters of the Outer Banks. Discover the Maritime Museum in historic Corolla Park, across the street from the Currituck Beach Lighthouse, and visit us online at currituckmaritimemuseum.com. Be a part of the local history at the Currituck Maritime Museum.
So my longtime friend, Captain Mike Merritt, had been over to Bermuda. And in fact, as this is being recorded today, a lot of boats are getting ready here at Pirates Cove Marina and Hatteras and Merritt City to make that run to Bermuda. Not a lot, half a dozen.
Okay.
Bull Tolson on the Sea Toy goes every year. Joey Belton is leaving for his first trip, but that is 600 miles. So you're going out of Oregon, you got extra fuel on board, and you're going to, 3 days later, you're going to arrive in Bermuda. And when you're out in the middle of that stretch of ocean, you're pretty much on your own.
Yeah.
Mike had been over there, this has been 10, 12 years ago, and he had been fishing, and it was time to head home. So they got everything right. They refueled the boat, and 600 miles. They slow the boats down and try to get them on a plane where they're not running wide open and the fuel consumption is better. And he started home. It was him and the owner of the boat, who was a dentist, and then there was also the dentist's friend on there and the mate. So 4 people on the boat. It was a Paul Mann built boat, one of the finest you could ever want to be on, and they started home. So for the first day and a half or 2 days, everything went smooth. They take watches in 2-man teams, somebody driving, somebody keeping their eyes open while the other 2 slept. Keep in mind, this is a $1 million yacht with beautiful accommodations and staterooms and things down below. And so as they started getting rough. And that's something you got to deal with. They're coming across the Gulf Stream from the far side. So they come in, and they had gotten into the Gulf Stream, and they were about 100 miles from being back to Oregon. So of the 600-mile trip, they were almost home. Almost still 100 miles. They had actually even talked by VHF radio to some of the charter fleet late that afternoon who were fishing at the 60-mile mark off Oregon Inlet. So they're like, we'll be along shortly, guys, and I'll see you around the dock this evening. But that's not exactly how it turned out. So just stay right here. I'll come back and tell you exactly the way it did happen. Hey y'all, Captain Marty here. And when I was looking for a top quality mower, I went to the best. And the best is A&W Sales in Pinetown. Now at A&W Sales, they carry top quality brands like the Bad Boy zero-turn mowers, of which I own one now for 15 years. American-made, heavy-duty machines built to handle anything from backyard touch-ups to commercial jobs. They've proudly sold and serviced Bad Boy mowers for over 15 years. How about if you're in need of a trailer? A&W Sales carries the full line of Big Tex trailers. The best best-selling trailer brand in the entire nation. Visit them in-store or online at awsalesnc.com, where tough equipment meets trusted service. So as they were going over these 10-foot seas, and they talked to some of the hometown boys, they were ready to get home. They've been gone for 2 months over in Bermuda. So they come off a big sea, and it was Mike and the owner of the boat up. It was their watch on the bridge. The other two guys were down asleep in the cabin of the boat, the V berth. And they came off this big 10-foot sea. When they did, he caught a glimpse of something coming up out of the sea.
Oh, Lord.
And what it was a container off a container ship.
Oh, my gosh.
By the way, you would not believe how many of those containers are floating around in the oceans of the world. There's a website that you can track those things. There's hundreds of them on any given day.
Oh, my gosh.
It would amaze you. This one was half sunk, and it was bobbing up and down on the end. Does that make sense, Justin?
Yes, absolutely. Now, these containers, though, they're pretty, it's not like it's like a
steel
box. They're made out of steel, and they're huge. They're about the size of the room we're in, if not bigger.
And they're loaded. It's the body off a tractor trailer is what it basically is. Yeah, so it's just like that. And that thing was bobbing up and down, and when they come off that sea, they hit it. And it was coming up as the bow of that big Carolina boat was going down, and it hit. Mike snatched the throttles back, but couldn't stop the boat in time. And the boat just came to a shudder and to a stop. And within seconds, you know what the first thing they saw was? The cushions from the V-berth were floating out through the bow of the boat.
Oh, my Lord.
Just floating out. And on top of the water, Mike knew they had caved the bow of that boat in. So she started going down immediately. The two guys that were sleeping jumped out of their bunk into knee-deep water almost immediately. They ran out there. They, of course, had that portable life raft, which is in a canister, and you would never make that trip without one. It's like a 6-man life raft. So you throw it over the side, and then you yank on the cord, and it inflates itself. But before they did that, Mike had managed to get off a Mayday call to the Coast Guard, and the nearest Coast Guard would have been Elizabeth City, but still 130 miles away. They put a call out to other mariners on there, and then they started knowing they were getting ready to have to abandon ship within 5 minutes. So the raft would not inflate.
Oh, no.
For starters, they kept pulling. And finally, as the bow of the boat was going down, the only thing left out of the water was them standing in the cockpit, and the raft inflated. They jumped into it and watched their boat go to the bottom. Just a brand new, beautiful Carolina-built sport fishing boat. Then they floated for a little while in 10-foot seas, don't forget.
Oh, my gosh.
And they looked, and here came a ship. And the ship had gotten the Mayday call, and they had gotten on their position off, but they got the call off, and sure enough, the ship came to them and turned broadside. Now, let me tell you something. Getting somebody off a raft in 10-foot seas when your ship, they're not very maneuverable. So what happened is they got down sea, and so that raft could drift with the seas into the side of the ship. They dropped a cargo net down over the side. That's all they had, really. And Mike told his mate and the owner of the boat and the owner's friend, you guys, when we get hold of that ladder, you got to go up that ladder. Don't let anything stop you, or we're going to drown right here. So while they were hanging on, the captain of the ship can't see what's going on down there. It's up underneath the side, and the people on the railing that were hanging over were motioning to the captain, come ahead a little bit, stop, back up. So at one point, the raft was going up to the bow of the ship, and there's that big bulbous thing underneath and it was coming up and down out of the water, like, oh no, and they're yelling up there, tell him to back up. To go forward a little bit. So he did, and when he did, then they went by the cargo net, and the propeller was not all the way in the water, and they were headed for that propeller.
Is it a bow thruster?
No, the propeller on the stern. They'd already been to the bow. Now they're going, they could not hang on to the rope ladder because of the current, the 10-foot seas. Now they're heading ship was running light, and they're heading for the propeller. And so the captain stopped the ship and backed it up a little, and they got back to the cargo net. Mike said, go. So the first thing that happened was the mate went up. Mike, and he scampered up the side of that ship. And you're talking about 30 feet straight up in 10-foot seas.
Yes.
They pulled him in. Then the owner of the boat went up, the dentist, and he went up over. But the other guy was terrified, scared to death. And he said, I can't do it. And Mike said, I'm gonna tell you something. You're gonna do it, or you're gonna be left in this life raft by yourself, because I'm going. So he gave the guy a shove, and they actually almost hoisted him up in the rope ladder. He was frozen stiff from fear.
Right.
They dropped the cargo net back down, and Mike got on there, and they got on. So they're on deck. They're uninjured. Their boat is gone, and the raft, of course, just floats away. So the Coast Guard had been called the helicopter who we rely on so much out of Elizabeth City, and then they got a call and said, is anybody injured? And they said, the captain of the ship said, nobody's injured. They're all 4 on board. Coast Guard said, well, we're turning around. If they're not injured, it's too risky to try to take them off in these seas off the bow of that ship.
Right.
He said, where are you heading? He was thinking the ship might be headed. It was southbound, thank goodness. But he was thinking they might be going into Morehead City or Wilmington or something like that. No, they were going into the Virgin Islands.
Oh my gosh.
So they're on board the ship with no clothes, no passports, no money, nothing, and the Coast Guard said, you'll have to take them with you to the Virgin Islands. So instead of going the 80 or 90 miles back to Oregon Inlet, they went 600-700 miles on that ship. It took them 4 more days.
Ooh.
And during that time, the ship guys gave them their orange jumpsuits,
Yep.
So they'd have something to wear. They washed all their clothes for them. They're really good to them. It's an international crew. They cook for them and all that. But when they got to the Virgin Islands, they had no passport. They had no paperwork, no documentation. And the U.S. Embassy actually had to get involved on that to get them where they could legally come in and then fly out of that country. So that's what happened. They got home. It was 6 full days after they sank. It was definitely the long way home from Bermuda, and it's a story that I'll never forget.